Now, Wole Odetayo is with us in the studio, and our focus today is on the survival of the small and medium-scale enterprises in Nigeria. Now, report has it that 80% of startups in Nigeria fail in the first 3 years of kickoff. Now, this no doubt comes with a series of reasons. Now, those are the reasons that we will be looking at this day on the show, and how we could sustain our small and medium-scale enterprises in Nigeria. Wole, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure.
Yes,
Thanks for having me.
It is not a beautiful statistic, I must say. It is believed that the private sector, or better still, small and medium-scale enterprises, are the engine room of any economy. But today we have such horrible statistics that 80% of those startups will fail after 3 years. How do you think we can avert this possibility?
Well, you must first understand that the failure of the startups is not because the owners of those businesses and the problem they want to solve is not as if they've lost the passion to do what they want to do. But this is usually as a result of a lot of microeconomic and personal issues. And one of them, particularly, I would say, is the environment, the business environment that these startups, let's even start from the definition of who a startup is. Yeah. A startup is an entity that is running the business model, trying to test their business model, over a period of time to achieve a particular objective. So they're trying to develop, a product, or they're trying to solve a problem. But they themselves, the way they differ from an existing strong medium business or even a small business that is because there is that period of, where they are learning the ropes. And when you look at that uncertainty in startup world in itself, it makes it a high risk, sector to even play with. Every business you see today, every giant you see today, every Lipton you see today, or Heinz, or any fast-moving consumer good today, passed through that phase, and they are usually characterized by the value of death. And when you look at the value of death of these startups, it's usually how they sustain funding. What about the skills of the entrepreneurs themselves to be able to sustain the team, to be able to keep the team, focused on the vision ahead? And there's just quite a number of things that you have to look at when you're talking about startups.
We can't discuss startups without looking at the place of government policies in, or rather, the place of a conducive environment for them to thrive.
Very true. And when you look at government policies or that conducive environment particularly, also led by the government, you must understand in Nigeria today, for example, that government is the biggest spender. And if government is the biggest spender in an economy where government don't regard these startups, when they don't have a room to play, then naturally you can see that there's almost no opportunity for these startups to grow. So in different climes, I don't want to start mentioning names of countries, but in different climes, even in countries not very far-fetched from ours, what they've done is to create a part of that spending for these small businesses so that there's an inflow, there's an opportunity for these startups to actually reach out and do business with the biggest spender in town. And in this case, being government. And that's just one side of it. And you can put a policy behind that to make sure that, these small businesses have a hope. They have an opportunity that they can aspire to solve. Again, if there's the biggest spender, the guy with the biggest pocket, deepest pocket in the room doesn't want to be the guy that sustains the environment. Because in Nigeria, like in any other clime, startups and these small businesses, these micro businesses are the sustenance of any economy. Up to 90%. In our own case, up to 90% of the jobs that are created. And that in itself makes it profound.
We also cannot discuss the challenges around the small-scale enterprises without looking at the issue of access to finance. That in itself is very key. So how can we militate? I mean, I know government is trying, I know there are a few interventions from the central bank for virtually every other sector, but this is still not yielding the desired results.
Well, it is not, especially because when you have a misalignment between the funders and those that need the fund, you would always get results like this. In most economies, and in very economies that are very keen on creating sustainable systems, they don't just let government pour in money into it. The reason is because government in itself is not equipped to do that. The best thing that government does is to provide data and to work with locals that understand the interpretation of that data. So government aggregates data. If you want go to registered business, for example, every business is required to file with Corporate Affairs Commission.
Yes.
And when you file, you state your business. The same thing goes for FIRS. Let's even assume everybody's within the safety net. You know, but the fact that government knows who is who and they know where things are going on is what they should limit that on. And then work with local guys that understand that market to, you know, invest in. And I think that the most sustainable would be to look at individual investors. How do we get individuals to start to support businesses on the street? It's called angel investment in the world where we're playing. How do we encourage angel investors to support each other? And that's very crucial, because then that is sustainable. If I, for example, start a business and I walk up to you and I say, you know, I see you on this show, you do very great things, you talk about this thing, can you invest in me? And then you say, oh, I have some disposable income. I have friends. I have 3 other friends. We can put together this money. That's sustainable, because we're talking about small businesses here. Number one, small business doesn't have collateral. A small business doesn't have track record, which what most investors want to look at.
Yeah.
So, you know, they call it Pioneer Gap Fund. That Pioneer Gap Fund is very crucial, and government really cannot play in that space enough, because there will always be bureaucracy.
True.
So my ideal postulation would be that let us make sure, let us make sure that things are, you know, that we help everyone understand the importance and create an environment for these angel investors to, you know, put in their own hard-earned money and build that relationship. Because when you put your money, you know, they say there's a saying that says that you put your mouth where your money is,
Yes.
right? When you put your money in these small businesses, the chances are high that you would also call your contact and say, hey, this market, please, can you help this small business that I have interest in to access this market? And that, to me, I think is sustainability in investment.
So tell me, part of the challenge is that we know that this sector faces is, in quote, multiple taxation. And as we speak, we are yet to see government really do anything in that aspect, in ensuring that maybe give them some rebate, or maybe give them some exceptions in all of these taxes to help them pick their business. But this is not forthcoming.
Yes, multiple taxation is something that I face as an entrepreneur every day, with issues as still as should I say early as last week. You know, that we had to go and argue with FIRS and show them why we shouldn't be paying this VAT because we've paid the VAT, you know, and so on and so forth. So multiple taxation is a big issue. But if you ask me honestly, what I think that the problem with multiple taxation is that there is a miscommunication between the policymakers and the business environment. So you see, the business environment, we're faced with so much challenges, so much issues, that we find little or no time to try and come together, band together, and form pressure groups to demand what is required. And I think it's a state of evolution of the business ecosystem, you know, where we're still, because we don't have the right infrastructure, you're providing your own power, you're providing your own water, you're providing, you know, you're paying taxes.
And all of that are huge challenge. Yeah, huge challenges.
Huge cost that can kill, not that can kill, kills businesses naturally. You know, so when you're faced with that, you have little time to band with your competitor and say, competition, we're in this, excuse me, we're in this market together. Can we talk to the House of Rep members in charge of, or Senate in charge of this or that, to help us put this law into? And I think that the time when we can start to come together, business environment, the business sector itself, start to band together to come and form that voice, to be able to let them know why this, because again, government is government. Government's job in any sane community is to provide security of lives and properties, and include security of the business,
yes.
Even secure the business environment, so that, you know, secure the naira. Naira is not in a free fall, you know, that things like that don't happen. But then, government itself don't have the expertise to make the right laws that favor us. In most climes, that private sector are the ones that would rise and advise the government. So how much of that are we doing? That's one.
It's private sector engagement with government?
Yes. Number two, I'm also aware that a lot has been done. to be sincere and to be fair too, that a lot of people had stepped forward to itemize, research from, from international organizations to say, if you remove this local government tax, radio, for example, I've received in my office what they call TV or radio tax, things like that. And then you pay VAT here, you pay VAT through a third party that collects VAT on behalf of the government. When you get to, FIRS, they will tell you that, no, that they don't know what you're talking about. And they'll give you, look, and I'm not kidding you, this year alone, we filed for our TCC, tax clearance, early January, the first week in January. And do you believe that as at Friday, last week Friday, we're still struggling with FIRS? We filed. So it took FIRS 6 months plus, and they've not still released it, and they're going back and forth and saying this is what you should, and these are what businesses face. And it's all about multiple taxation. So we had to go with our books. Imagine us going with all our account statements for 2018, saying this line is why we're not meant to pay this tax. This line why we're not meant to pay this. And that's double taxation. So sensitization on the part of the regulators is very important. But that sensitization, I think, comes from a well-informed law, that clearly dismantles the tax system and makes it. I'm not a tax consultant, so it would be rude for me to behave like I know everything in that sector. But I know as a business owner that it needs that communication.
Very well said, Wole Odetayo, Managing Partner, Lofty Inc. Before I let you go, quickly, what is the place of technology and innovations in helping startups survive? Technology
is an enabler. That's where I stand to start with. Technology in itself is not a business. Even though there's a technology business, you could have a software company that is building software for people. But if you're building software, you're working virtually, that's a different case. But even when you're working virtually, you have customers that have addresses. So technology is an enabler, and technology it creates an exponential value to any sector.
So the small and medium scale should buy into it as well.
Very fantastically said. They must buy into it, because your customers, like they say, it's on your timeline. Your customers are somewhere groaning. And so in the case that I cited, for example, what happened is not because population exploded and that made 30 million to become 1.2 billion. But because those that would have normally taken the bus, then all of a sudden can flip the phone, call a ride, and they take the ride. And that's what technology does. So when you're a small business, I know people, for example, that make a ton on Instagram. And Instagram it's technology, it's social media. But the fact that they can now, there's quote unquote democracy of the business. So the buyers are no longer saying, oh, where can I get this thing? Or how can I get this thing? How can I get the best price? Everything is now available. So if you're a small business and you're not thinking technology, then you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Wole Odetayo, thank you so very much for coming on the show and talking to us.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate your time here. Thank you so very much. Now, this is Today's Business with me, David Babadike. We'll take a break. When we come back, the program will continue. Don't go away. Now, welcome back. I'm afraid that will be it for the show this week. Till we come your way again next week, do have yourself a profitable business day. Bye for now.